Well, I'll go ahead and get things started. We have some guests on the call, but I think they'll be introduced as we make the program moves forward
Lauren,
here.
do you want to introduce yourself? Lauren is our is from Speedway High School on Key Club.
Oh, hey, Lauren. Excellent. Lauren, you're muted. There you go.
Yeah, I know. I was eating my breakfast. I haven't eaten today.
Some
Lauren
things
is
haven't
our
changed.
Indy Metro Division Lieutenant Governor and a Key Clubber from Speedway, and also on, is it the Family Committee,
Save
Lauren?
Fam Committee. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for joining
Excellent.
in.
Thanks for joining us, Lauren. That's terrific. And good luck with your pursuits there. It's a great organization. So I do need to make a couple of quick announcements. Our next social supper, if you haven't replied yet, is on Wednesday, July 2nd at Hollyhock Hill. Our next meeting is on Zoom on July 10th, and we won't have a meeting on July 3rd, and hope everybody has a great 4th of July weekend. Please sign up for our Victory Field tour and lunch on Wednesday, July 30th, and the golf outing on Tuesday, September 23rd. And I want to wish happy 24th Kiwanis anniversary today to Scott Harkness as an integral member of our Abe Lincoln Awards team. So now I would like to introduce Kathy Camp of the Assistance League of Indianapolis to tell us more about the grant from the Kiwanis Foundation of Indianapolis for their Operation School Bell program.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for inviting us to be part of your Zoom call today. Needless to say, we were very, very excited to receive the grant. I also have Laurel Burns, who is our Vice President of Philanthropic Programs, and she was instrumental in bringing Wayne Township into our group of schools that we're able to service. So I wanted her to join me as well. It was a pleasure to welcome Laura Berry back in January to our regular meeting. She presented the generous $5,000 check from Kiwanis to us. And we will certainly be following up we're working on our final report with all of the stats and data. But today we just wanted to give you a quick overview. Operation School Bell is one of 5 programs that we support, and we're happy to say 5 because our members just voted in a literacy initiative this past year. However, Operation School Bell still remains our largest program. We celebrated our 40th anniversary in October. It's one of our inaugural programs. It comprises about 74% of our total budget for our programs. And the apparel division, which is where your grant supported our efforts, is about 64% of that. Operation School Bell has 3 divisions. One is apparel, one is shoes, and the other one we call Beyond the Bell, and it provides clothing for emergency purposes to the social workers in the schools that come up throughout the year that are not anticipated. And but of that, apparel is really the largest at 64%. Your grant went specifically to help us add apparel to Wayne Township, and that grant generously supported 25% of our expense for that school district. So we are very excited to be partnering with you in this effort. And I'm going to turn it over to Laurel, who'll be able to tell you specifically how that money was spent.
Right. Can you see me? I can see you all.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's scary.
Yeah, and you look good.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we distributed duffel bags to 246 kids in Wayne Township. And Wayne Township is kind of special for me because that's where I spent my entire teaching career. So I know those kids and I know their needs. Each duffel bag has 2 pairs of pants, 2 polo shirts, a winter jacket, hat, gloves, underwear, and socks.
Wow.
And as Kathy said, your donation accounted for about 27% of what we spent on those duffels for those kids. 246 is a small number compared to the over 3,000 distributed to 6 school districts. But we're really excited. This was the first year we were able to serve Wayne Township with apparel, and we're hoping to expand that. So we thank you so much.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much for everything that you guys do. That's terrific, and we're glad that we can help. It's a great need in the community, and those kids,
Absolutely.
I'm glad we can help them out. So
Thank you very much.
thank you, and thanks for letting us know. And obviously, yeah, you're welcome to stay on board and hear Jess, who I will introduce now. And Jess, I don't know if you heard, I'm going to have to bow out early, but you're in good hands here on this one. So Jess Baloun just earned her master's in public history from IU Indianapolis and works at the Indiana Historical Society. She's one of the 2025 Civic Season ambassadors, highlighting activities across the U.S. and amplifying youth voices in their community. So Jess, we look forward to seeing your presentation.
Cool. Thank you so much. Am I good to share my screen? I have some slides for y'all.
Absolutely.
Okay. Just let me know if that's showing up okay on your guys' end. Amazing. Perfect.
Perfect.
So a little bit about me. My name is Jess Baloun. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me here today. For me, I was involved in civics at a fairly young age. I have parents who really value local community and giving back whenever possible. I'm very familiar with Kiwanis. I grew up around Key Club and coming to Kiwanis events in my hometown in Northeast Ohio. And I think beyond just doing all that volunteer work, I was also instilled with this idea of just trying to be a good neighbor, a good friend. So that's kind of been in my DNA for a while. So that's kind of what drew me to Civic Season. So first, I kind of wanted to start with just talking about what civics is. So civics is this idea of the rights and obligations that we as citizens have for existing, living, thriving in a society. And that society being for us, the United States. It's the actions, the knowledge that allows us to be well informed and to be active in our communities. And it's more than just doing things like voting. It means volunteering our time, our energy, our resources to our local communities. It's also about knowing your history and knowing the past that has shaped what is going on in our present. It's also about knowing how the society around you functions and how it affects yourself as well as others. So, what is Civic Season? So this is a new tradition that is trying to be instilled between the periods of our nation's oldest federal holiday, Independence Day, July 4th, and Juneteenth, which is today. For those of you who might not be completely familiar, June 19th or Juneteenth marks the ending of legalized slavery in the United States. On June 19, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger ordered the final enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation in the state of Texas at the end of the American Civil War. You may notice that that is a good amount of time after the actual Emancipation Proclamation was first given to the public in January of 1863. It did take over 2 years for that information to spread across the U.S. Civic Season itself is an opportunity to bring in young people, especially into ways to engage with their communities and to commemorate the country, especially in wake of 2020 with a large number of social justice movements happening, the pandemic, a lot of uncertainty and feeling of loss of control or agency in what's going on. And as a young person, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed by the large problems that we foresee happening now, but also, going through the rest of our adult lives. And civic season is an opportunity to combat that, to give young people under the age of 30 like tools and empowerment to be involved with civics. So civic season is going into its 5th iteration this year, and it's spearheaded by an organization called Made by Us. Made by Us is an organization that looks to inform and empower Gen Z people through content and programs that foster belonging and connection with our nation's story, our nation's history, with a focus on history in particular. It also works alongside different cultural institutions like museums, libraries, to increase the knowledge, skills, and capacity to meet these civic needs of young people through trainings, research, and opportunities. And finally, Made by Us is looking to build a culture of civic participation in anticipation of the commemoration of America's 250th anniversary and signing of the Declaration happening July 2026, through creating this new American tradition of a civic season, which basically is just a real launch pad of encouraging people to get involved, whether it be in your local community or larger in scope during this period of June 19 to July 4th. Made by Us is led by not only Gen Z organizers, but it's also backed by cultural institutions across the country. Here in Indiana, we have the folks over at Connor Prairie helping with a lot of leadership and planning on the Made by Us board. We also have other organizations like the Indiana Historical Society who are very involved in Midwest planning, hosting events having to do with civic season. Okay, this next slide is going to have a lot of words, so I apologize if it feels overwhelming. But so the way that civic season and Made by Us approach trying to create this new tradition of civic engagement is one through creating a landing place to find events, both virtual and in real life, happening during this time. One of the signature programs is called Slice of History. So Made by Us gets sponsors to help organizations just buy a boatload of pizza and invite young people especially into places to engage with activities or conversations having to do with civics. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about that too, of what the Historical Society has planned next week having to do with that. There is also a really cool website that Civic Season has, and I'm going to share it in the chat right now. But this website, if you click and play around with it, there's a number of quizzes, games, resources for people who are interested in civics and finding ways to connect with other people as well. Looking a bit bigger picture too, what Made by Us is doing is creating resources through graphics, media type stuff, but also doing studies and surveys across the country to see what um, people of different generations think about Gen Z, what Gen Z is thinking right now, as people who are young, active, and coming into adulthood, or are already young adults, young professionals like myself, um, and how we get people of that age more connected and more empowered um, to engage with civics. Um, This also includes doing a number of social media posts that not only talk about resources, but also talk about history and connecting things that are going on today with historical background. One of the things I said earlier was a part of civic engagement is understanding past decisions, past events, and how that led to decisions, choices, events that are happening today. So a lot of that information and those kind of posts are generated through Made by Us staff, but it's also sourced to people like me who serve as ambassadors. So another thing I'm going to share is last year I also got the opportunity to serve as an ambassador. And through that, I created a short video talking about at the time, new opening exhibit at the Historical Society all around resistance to the Ku Klux Klan, also focusing on Notre Dame and resistance happening in South Bend. This exhibit named Resist is still open at the Historical Society and will be for a few more months. So I encourage you, if you are down by Ohio Street, to come stop by and see the exhibit. Um, mm, mm, mm. Um, so I mentioned also just resources. There are regional groups that have been meeting periodically for the last few years, working on how to promote civic season. Also keeping in mind that this is kind of a testing kitchen for a lot of museums, a lot of libraries, a lot of organizations for doing events and initiatives leading up to the 250th anniversary, and hopefully starting initiatives that exist long after 2026 passes us. So another initiative that is happening right now through civic season and is part of Made by Us as well is a wish wall. So again, another link in the chat that'll take you to the page. But this wish wall is both a digital form, but also is happening in pop-ups in real life around the country. Is an opportunity for us to think about, while sitting in this moment of commemorating 250 years of America, what do we wish for in the next 250 years? So if you go to the link, it is interactive in a way that you can include like your own thoughts, but also you can go and scroll through and see what other people have included on the page. Right now, Made by Us has a pop-up of one of these walls at the Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. And so the idea is in the next year or so, there are going to be pop-ups of these walls across the country as a chance to have dialogue about what different people, different communities want to see for our country in the next 250 years.
Cool.
Okay. So I mentioned one of the special events of civic season is a slice of history. So my team at the Historical Society is going to be hosting an event next Tuesday. That is free and open to all, but we're especially encouraging younger folks to come, where we're going to be talking about gerrymandering. We're going to be talking about how different voting districts work, as well as getting to have some discussions about how it affects our communities, as well as having lots of pizza because free food is always great. Um, so that event is going to be filled with board games, computer games. We have a giant Connect Four that we're making into a way to deliver information and talk about what gerrymandering looks like in Indiana. So it's a very fun event. And I would, or I invite you all to come up, bring any young people in your life, share this information. It's a very fun event that we look forward to every year. Um, and yeah, so, and I guess just kind of rounding back out with how I started, as a civic season ambassador, I am doing a lot of stuff online, but I'm also very thankful when I get invited to talk about civic season and talk about initiatives and planning going into the 250th anniversary of the US. Um, and I think that's all I got. But I have my email here at IHS if anyone has any questions for me or wants to get in touch about anything I talked about today. But yeah, I don't think I went 20 minutes like how I thought I was gonna go. But I'm happy if anyone has any questions or things they want to ask me about.
I have a quick question. As you've been, I know you're really focusing on students, young adults. What is their reaction to being presented with civics education?
I think for me personally, from what I've seen, um, it is mixed. It's mixed. I think I'm around, obviously I'm by IUI's campus a lot. So I see a lot of people who feel very alienated, very not as connected with this feeling of being American, of being a part of American society. And I think in terms of education, a lot of it has to do with how it's presented too. Because I think a lot of people can get turned off from hearing like, oh, well, one, that sounds boring. I did government or civics class in school, and that was just memorizing a bunch of stuff, and it wasn't fun. Um, so I think one of the biggest things I've seen too is people get engaged when it affects the local community directly around them. So learning about like gerrymandering in your hometown or learning about how decisions have affected the way your neighborhood looks, that's a lot easier to connect with people. Don't know if that exactly answers your question.
Yeah, that was perfect. And I apologize. I should have led those comments off with thank you for the work that you're doing. I think this is really,
Oh.
really important. And especially, and you hit on this, in your answer to the question, but presenting it in a way that is approachable for your audience. I even think back, 20, 30 years to when I had, civics and government in high school, and it was dry. And I'm so like envious of what your folks are able to take away from this. So thank you very much for this work. I think it's more important today than ever.
Yeah, thank you.
I had a hello. I had a
Hi.
comment. This is Greg Silver. Hello, Jessica. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, I think the Indiana Historical Society does such a great job in doing everything you can do. I know that there's a lot of things you want to do, and you're all right on point for what I agree with, having been a federal judge. I think the GLICs have helped a great deal in getting that going. I think there's a lot out there that could be utilized for from the Native Americans forward in this 250 years, before the 250 years. I think that as far as I'm going to make some comments at the end here on June 19th, but from my family history, I believe that my great grandfather was part of the June 19th freedom in Texas. He had gotten off a, so the family says, off a boat in Galveston in 1865, drafted in the Union Army, and did act part of the force in Texas. So I'm very proud of that. Immigrants have had a great effect on our country. You made a comment about Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. Okay, what did they fight? They fought against the Klan. People don't know that. They think it's a football team. No, the Fighting Irish stood up against the Klan in this state 100 years ago. So I think your encouragement of history every day, key clubs are a good one. Partnering with Lilly Foundation, for example, what they're doing, which I've been a little part of, is civility and summer camps, providing grants to a program in camps that are nationwide or local about teaching young people about humility and civility, because we actually absolutely have to have that in this difficult period we're in. Leadership is where it all starts, and I think that the Historical Society can be a part of that. Whether you get to the issue of gerrymandering or not, another generation may look at it quite differently than where we are at. So that's all I have to say. I think you're doing a great job. I think Lily would be a good partner. You might check with Foundation about some grants and partnering with the funds that you have. But getting this message out through the high schools and the key clubs is never ending. As an advisor to the key club, among others at Shortridge, I do that every time we have a meeting, and I believe it has an effect. And even if it affects one person, we are in a difficult time in this country right now. So, as you know, thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Any other question? Oh,
I got a question for you. I'm Laura. Thanks for being here again. My question is more about your journey and involvement with civics, and what you have seen change since when you were a student, first learning about the topic, and now that you are kind of on the other side of things and helping increase awareness and involvement. Have you seen any changes, and or has your personal mindset changed at all?
Yeah, so as somebody who I went to school working in international politics and doing history, so I've always kind of been made an attempt to try to stay on top of things that were happening and information and being that resource for people in my life. So I think for me, especially in the last, handful of years, I've found that it's so easy to get burnt out with things. Living in an age where there's, such a fast news cycle and we have so much access to information, it's both a blessing and a curse of um, for the people who are already very engaged and are interested in being a part of um, doing movements for their communities, doing work for their communities. It's so easy to get bogged down by all of that. Um, I think it also is quite easy to then want to just kind of ignore it in hopes that it's, as a way of coping with that. So I think for me personally, I have found, or I'm continuing to try to find a good way to balance that in looking at things that I can control and looking at things that, are going to help people around me. Because I think, especially doing civics and, you know, talking about politics and talking about all the stuff going on in the world right now, it's very easy to dehumanize a lot of that and forget that there are people, being affected by that. So I think for me, it's been a lot more of focusing on that human aspect and relational aspect of people that live and work right around me.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, I have some quotes at the end if you want to do this, Kelly, or you want me to do them now? They're kind of on point for what Laura and I have been talking about, among others. So just reminding people of the history of this country, is easy to forget what has happened and how we got where we got, not just today, but after 250 years, and the bad things and the good things, and the tremendous achievements that we've had. So here's some quotes from one of my favorite judges, Louis Brandeis, who was on the U.S. Supreme Court, and we may not know him. We may have forgotten that the courts did so much for us. Those who won our independence valued liberty as an end and as a mean. They believed liberty to be the secret of happiness, and courage to be the secret of liberty. Also, he wrote, those who won our independence by revolution were not cowards. They did not fear political change. They did not exalt order at the cost of liberty. And one more that I thought was pretty good. This is from Oliver Wendell Holmes, again, another great jurist. Whatever disagreement there may be as to the scope of the phrase due process of law, there can be no doubt that it embraces the fundamental conception of a fair trial with opportunity to be heard. These kind of quotes do mean something to students, I believe, because when their rights are affected, even today, even this very day, I must remember where we are in this country. We are not potted plants. I don't know where I came up with that one. Thank you for being here today, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, and I think one underlying reason to do a lot of civic season and doing all these initiatives too is just having spaces to bring people together to have conversations. Because I think when we leave conversations just, online or through the most high most emotional ways, whatever end of spectrums you're on, I think that breaks down a lot of connection and working to have conversations to understand rather than just defending yourself. Um, so I love those quotes. So thank you so much for sharing those.
You're welcome. And working together is the only answer to this country, and it has been for 250 years. Now, sometimes we got really offline with the Klan and racism to the extreme, hanging people in Marion, Indiana. We have achieved quite a bit, but we have a long ways to go. And leadership is extremely important. And as you just said, working together, you cannot have one persuasion only. It will not work. It will not work for us. It will not work for Iran. Again, thank you, Jess.
Any other questions for me about civic season, the Historical Society, America 250 coming up? Okay, well, I guess the last thing I want to impart with you before I finish up here is we are at a really interesting moment to be cultural workers right now in Indiana. I'm not sure how much of you have all followed, but a good number of our friends over at the State Library and the Indiana Historical Bureau were let go from their positions last week. So please do, if you have any people working in the cultural field, please check in on them, and as much as you can, try to support the work of history professionals in your life, and trying to help the work that is being put under attack at this moment. So, and that's it for me.
Thank you.
Jessica, thank you so much for the presentation today. Thank you for that reminder to take care of our friends and neighbors and folks that are doing really hard work during really hard times. On behalf of the Kiwanis Foundation of Indianapolis, we will be making a donation in your honor to the Riviera Club Foundation for their water safety education and learn to swim programs for low-income youth who are at the highest risk of drowning in our city. So thank you again for all of the work that you're doing. Thank you for taking time out of a very important day to come visit with us. Kiwanians, feel free to hang around, visit with one another as best we can on a Zoom. Otherwise, please go enjoy your days. Thank you all.
Thank you again for the invitation for Assistance League to be with you today too. And Jess, that was really informative, and I'm glad I stuck around to listen to your presentation. It was very, very worthwhile, and best of luck to you as well. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.